Greetings, Jedi Knights and Sith Lords, and welcome to the Star Wars Artifact Show. Today, we're going to break down episode 6 of the Andor series. And to discuss with me, I have my usual partner, Eric. My man, how are you doing tonight?
Doing good, doing good. Can't complain, can't complain. Had a good weekend and a good week, and finally got to see the episode that we were anxiously waiting for. So
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
all good.
Great. So, for those who are joining us for the very first time, we review everything Star Wars, basically. All the Star Wars shows. So we began with Andor, and obviously we're gonna review all the upcoming shows as well. So thanks for joining us if it's the first time. Thanks for joining us if you are returning. So without further ado, my friend, let's begin with our episode breakdown.
Yeah. So after that build up um, to the end of this story arc, we had this episode begins on Aldani, which was I guess 95 or 90 high 90s percentage of where the whole episode took place.
Yeah.
We started early in the morning. Andor and Nemik are having a conversation. Nemik wasn't able to sleep, so instead he wrote another chapter in his manifesto called The Role of Mercenaries and the Galactic Struggle for Freedom. He then tells Clem that he doesn't really believe his name, that's his real name, which, I mean, at this point, after finding out why he was there in the first place, I guess he has reason to doubt it. Um, in their discussion, they realize that they don't share the same views about freedom, independence, and justice. And Nemik is more of an idealist, while Andor is a lot more of a pessimist.
Yeah, for sure. And then we switch to the Imperial base. Commandant J-Hold Bihaz reports to Colonel Pettigar on the traditions of the Danis. He seems to have figured them out completely, but obviously he doesn't understand a thing. His speech is both impressive and terrifying, in my opinion, because he says that that population, they're simple folks, and it's easy to mislead them into thinking or doing whatever we want them to do. It's all about uh, you know uh, letting them think they have control on some decisions, but they're actually choosing between two options that they weren't interested to begin with. So he also adds that they would rather suffer than to accept the presence of the empire. So and he asks Lieutenant Gorn how much people are coming. He says, well, there used to be 500 Davies, and now the number has fallen down to 60. So,
I think he mentions something. He puts like little stops, right, for like if it was I don't know canteens or whatever, like.
yeah,
And so I guess he's poisoning them along the way, or like I don't know what he's doing, right? But like he's obviously those are there to set up and to start eliminating
well,
them. So
I saw that it was like he was putting some, crappy steps,
yeah.
so people wouldn't want to make the journey all the way because it was poor beverages and
Yeah, yeah.
poor poor mattresses and stuff like that. So
So before we leave the camp, Tarman makes radio contact with Vel and Cinta.
Mhm.
Their comm system will remain functional after they've scrambled the empires, and so on their way to the Imperial base, Andor um, tells Skeen that he finds that Taramin is a bit bossy, and Skeen explains that he used to be a stormtrooper. Um, and the Donnies arrive at the base, and Lieutenant Gore makes sure that everything is going smoothly. Um, where am I here? Sorry about that. Then the four rebels get on their uniforms, which we knew what was eventually going to happen in their setup. And at this point, there's really no turning back with the mission, as they've
no,
clearly been identified. Well, not identified, but they've been seen at this point, right? So
yeah, it's game time. So at the base, J-Hold is putting his ceremonial uniform, and he seems to have gained some weight since the last time he wore it. So he asks his wife, Rhoda, to give him a hand. But she is busy helping their son, Leonard, dress up. So he tells his wife, that he's 12, so he can dress up by himself, which is pretty ironic because he is much older and can't even dress up by himself. So I thought that was really funny.
It's funny because it reminded me of the struggles of a lot of my friends that I see the 501st when we got back after COVID, and a lot of people's costumes didn't fit anymore. Buttons flying, snaps breaking, and so I don't know. It's just I had a bit of a flash of that. So the meteors start to fly at this point. We see the first one fly by, and Bella insists to put on wetsuits to swim their way to the dam. The Donnies arrive at the location where they're going to celebrate the eye. And then J-Hold and Donnie's elders trade their furs in this, I guess, ritual that they would, I guess, ceremoniously have. Um, the Imperials hate this tradition and cannot stand the smell of the furs. I mean, I guess I can imagine why. They just want to get over with. And at the dam, the ladies install the communication scrambler. And then Lieutenant Gordon chooses 4 guys to escort the officers back to the base. As soon as they leave, the Donnie's elders throws the fur in the fire. And just, I don't know if anyone noticed. I'm not going to flip back all those pictures, but this guy you see on the screen right here. If you didn't have like a Walter White image come to your head when you saw him, like I'd be shocked because I actually thought it was Bryan Cranston there for a second, making some kind of weird cameo.
He would have been cool for sure.
Yeah,
And speaking of the fur, I mean, I love the scene when Lieutenant Gordon is at the base holding the fur, and Colonel, what's his name? Colonel Pettigar passes next to him. He takes just a little sniff. He's like, ugh. And he runs away
yeah, yeah.
because of the smell. That was pretty funny.
It's
So,
funny because I mean, just to go off of the subject just a little bit. I mean, we were
mhm,
talking earlier, and how they were kind of giving him, saying that they were simple folk and whatever, and but in the end, when he throws that onto the fire, you could see that there's no respect in any direction, right? Like, I mean,
oh, yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
They both eat each other for sure. So as soon as they get to the base, our four heroes, sorry, take Colonel Pettigar, Commander J-Hold, and his whole family hostage. Pettigar tries to play the hero, but is ultimately shot by Cinta when the girls arrive where the rest of the group is. J-Hold then has no choice to cooperate to save his wife and son, and he is taken down to the vaults. Meanwhile, the communication scrambler turns on and all the base comms are paralyzed.
So on their way to that vault, they stop by the watchtower. They leave J-Hold's wife and son there. Cinta also tells them, also stays to watch them. When the group reaches the vault level, they simulate an improvised inspection. They line up the soldiers and they announce their intention to steal the payroll. They use J-Hold's fingerprint to open the vault, which he had, I think, previously said that wouldn't work in the first place. He didn't have
Yeah.
access, right? They use, yeah. So
And I love
once,
the moment when Vel told him, we could just cut your hand and use it to
exactly.
open the vault. That was
Well,
pretty funny.
that was, I mean, when she got there, she made it very clear. It was like, listen, either we're all dying or we're all going through. And does he say, he goes, you're gonna kill us anyway, right? Like he goes,
Yeah,
once you get what you want, and she goes, well, no, that's what you would do, and you, of course, you would think that because that's what you would do. I thought that was a pretty interesting line, also.
that's not the rebel way to do
Yeah.
things. No.
Um. So and funny enough, they use all those soldiers to. I mean, they blow up the security that's holding the credits, and then after that, they use the soldiers to load, which is something I didn't really think of. But yeah, I mean, if you might as well use them, they're there, right?
Yeah,
So
and they were doing their job. They were working pretty fast and pretty efficiently.
yeah.
So that was nice to see. So here's our good old friend Corporal Kimsey trying to fix the base comms. But while he tries to do so, he overhears communication between the two groups and gathers a few soldiers and runs down to the vaults. Meanwhile, the meteors intensify, and we really see why it is such a spectacle. I mean, look at this picture; it's amazing. It's like
Yeah, this
Northern Lights times 10.
yeah, it does. I mean, this image really doesn't capture it in full motion, and
The
if you have
beauty.
a decent television, so it's it was really nice.
Yeah. So the Danis obviously stop dancing and chanting, and they watch the show with amazement. Lieutenant Gorn reaches the vault level, and J-Old finally realizes that he is in line with the robbers. He tells Gorn that he will be hung for this, but that one of my most favorite lines of the show, as Gorn tells J-Hold that he deserved a lot worse for serving him for a whole 7 years. So that was a. I'm sure he had planned to say this sentence at some point
Yeah,
before he left the base.
yeah, I'm sure he's been keeping that in his back pocket for a while.
Oh yeah, he must have repeated that scene in his mind a few times.
Yeah. So, when Corporal Kimsey arrives, Gordon tells him, well, first, I think I have this here. We started loading the Tie Fighter pilots here. That kind of came in a quick kind of cut scene back and forth, and it's funny that when I was putting these screens together, there's so much going on
Hmm.
back and forth that I was in. Even we were looking for another screen at one point together earlier today, and it's just super hard. There's so much going on at once. But I mean, this shot here was just incredible with the lights flashing in the back, and the TIE fighter actually loading himself, the pilot into the TIE fighter was just incredible.
And
Um,
I think it's the very first time we see TIE fighter pilots, getting into their fighters and getting ready to go on the mission. I mean, live action. I think we saw it in the Rebels animated series. We might have seen it in the Squadrons game, but in the series or movie, I think it's the very first time we see that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
I was like so thrilled. I think it was one of my favorite scenes.
Well, I think is it
In the whole
Battlefront
episode.
2. I think at one point you go and
Possible.
like you're on one of the like kind of like one of the stations you go up to when you go in. But I mean, it's nothing like seeing it here, right? Like how we're seeing it in this
Yeah,
series
live
was just
action.
unbelievable. So
Yeah.
great camera angles that they used for that. So, yeah, so Kimsey arrived. Gordon tells him to go back to his post, and they're taking part in a. He was quick on that one. To
Mhm.
think of it, he goes, "Where it's this top secret. You need to get out of here." But then what we see is J Hold. Well, actually, he basically tells J Hold to cooperate with the story and tell him to get out. Telling him he's disobeying a direct order. And this is the part where J Hold he seems to suffer a heart attack and fall down. But I mean, who knows, right? I mean, is that his way out of getting out of that kind of pressured moment of having to collaborate with the story that Gorn was telling, and then all hell breaks loose at this point. People start dying. Kimsey gets killed, and a few seconds later, it's Gorn's turn. Um, it was
He
just
died a lot faster than I thought he would.
yeah. It was quick, and we had our predictions last week of who was going to
Mhm.
die, and um, anyway, I mean, obviously, it was hard to be wrong if you had picked anyone at this point.
Yeah.
Um, so that's about it.
Yeah. Well, the on the one of the soldiers sneaks out to the cockpit and he attacks Andor. Meanwhile, Vel is pinned down and Termin dies trying to help her. So everything is happening pretty quickly at that moment. Nemec sees Endor is in trouble, and he ends up shooting the Imperial soldier down. Vel and Skeen barely escape and make it to the ship before the panels come up, and they leave trying to escape the base. During the climb, a bunch of credits roll and crush Nemec, and he breaks his spine. And then when the Valiant finally get him out, he mentioned that he cannot feel his legs anymore. So
So the ship makes it out of the base. Cassian asks for a flight path. Obviously, Nemec is in great pain and cannot help right away, so Vel injects him with the med spike. And with Skeen's help, they drag him towards the cockpit. He takes out his famous Polaroid camera and starts giving him the instructions. And Nemec tells Andor to climb in. To climb, and it is very reminiscent of the K2SO final words to Andor and Rogue One.
Yeah, if you remember, they're at they're trying to find the Death Star plans. K2SO closes the big middle door,
Yeah,
and he breaks the control panel. And his last words on the comm is, "Well, climb Andor." I mean, I'm not sure if he says Andor, but climb, and then he gets shot and
yeah.
he he dies after that. So
So we have the TIE fighters catching up to them. They start attacking. Nemec now orders Cassian to dive to stay clear of the meteors. One by one, we see the TIE fighters, like in typical TIE fighter fashion, I guess, in every other movie. They just, get picked off one by one by
mhm.
the meteor showers, and our group finally makes it out of harm's way. Dressed as an officer, Cinta is walking out of the base, I guess, clear of danger for the moment, I guess. So
Yeah, I'm curious to see when or if we're gonna see her again in maybe this season or maybe next year. I don't know.
you were right about who was sharing a blanket with who, though. That you said that
Oh
last
yeah,
week,
yeah,
and I
they
guess it was
made it
probably a lot
pretty
more obvious
obvious.
than I thought. But yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, that's for sure. But some people mentioned on the web that there were some tears on her cheeks. Uh, I don't know. Do you think she could have shot the rest of J-Hold's family and the other soldiers at the command center? Because when Skeen mentioned to Andor that Tarman was a stormtrooper,
yeah.
uh, he also said that stormtrooper killed Cinta's entire family, and that she got very angry when she found out that he used to be a stormtrooper. So, do you think vengeance was uh, in
It
her, or?
it's definitely. I mean, it's very easy to read into like a lot of the stuff, but definitely, I find that anything that's mentioned is always for a reason.
Mhm,
So I wouldn't be surprised if there's something going on there. And the scene that we had with Valenceant at one point when they're about to leave each other and they're like, I think she says something along the lines like we'll see each other again and promise we'll something along.
yeah.
So it can't be over. I'm hoping it's not one of those kind of like not that I have anything against the Mandalorian's formula, but like we kind of introduce us all to the characters and at the end they're all together in the last episode. Like
Mhm,
I don't find that Andor has that kind of recipe so far to it. I like the story arcs. It reminds me a little bit of the formula used in the Clone Wars. Where like story arc moving on, story arc moving on. It
mhm.
all kind of comes together, or like it has a purpose. But like, I don't think we need that. That kind of episode at the end where they all come back. So I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens. But
Yeah,
I
it
don't
kind
think
of
it's the
feels
last
like we
one.
have a new Star Wars movie every 3 weeks. You know, we
Yeah,
got first arc, that's a movie. Second arc, that's another movie, and we're about to embark in another movie for the
yeah.
next 3 weeks. So I don't mind that because the slow pace of the first 2 episodes give us time to make some character building, and we get it gives some depth to all the characters, which I like, and it made their deaths a lot more painful to see in the third episode. So
Well, you know what? Like we'll finish up this and we'll come back to that. Keep that in
yeah.
mind because I experienced a little bit of that on one of the groups this week. So
Okay. Well, so the group decides to make a stop at a doctor to try to help Nimic, and while Doctor Quadpaw, I like his name by the way, Doctor Quadpaw tries to do a miracle. Skin and Endor have a little chat outdoors, and Skin tells Cassian that they are about 80 millions on that ship. So he's tempted to run away with the money, and he asks Endor if he's in it. and obviously Andor did not share his point of view, and he picks up his gun and shoots him right away. So
Did you pick up on Skeen saying that he has no brother or something like that?
yeah, so I also wondered, does that mean that he doesn't have a brother anymore, or if it means that he never had a brother and
Yeah,
the little sad story he told us last episode was complete a lie basically.
yeah.
So
That's just, I
I'm
guess I'd
not
have to
certain on
watch
that.
it again and
Hmm.
see the tone and the meaning behind it. Like so like meaning that he's got no one else to share his wealth or anything. So maybe he can. I mean, I think that it was always meant to go their own way, but like that could be his new partner or whatever. So it was just
Hmm.
a weird vibe there, and I wasn't sure if, like you said, if it was a lie about the whole thing, didn't have a brother. This is his story, and basically he's just like a scumbag. Um, so I don't know if anyone on the chat has their opinion on that. Oh, by the way, there's Maxime Portin Demers is a first timer. He's watching us today.
Hey Max, welcome to the show.
He's actually the one who took all the photos that we're going to be showing from the coming
Oh,
Comic Con
good,
shortly.
nice.
So to move on, Cassian enters the tent. He sees the doctor wasn't able to save Nemec.
Hmm.
I know that it's going to break Dominic's heart that
Yeah,
your favorite character,
I
but
like that guy, but I was expecting him to die. I mentioned it last week. So,
yeah, yeah.
but for a brief moment there, like when they took him to the doctor, I was like, oh, perhaps. But you know what? I think that they should have taken him to the guy who did the mods on Finiction. Maybe he would have been able to put some special pistons in his back or something. That
I
would be
I just think it's kind of weird that um, that they made a whole scene trying to save him and then he just dies.
yeah,
But I think that I'd be suspicious of his death or as to whether or not he did die until. But even then, I guess it's not confirmed. But just to move on real quick, Cassian walks in at gunpoint, basically telling him that that Skeen was there and he tried to screw him over,
hmm,
and she thinks that now he's going to do it, but he says he just wants his cut, what he's owed. He gives back Luthen's kyber crystal, and before he leaves, Vel gives Cassian Nemic's manifesto, and Andor is reluctant to take it, but he ends up taking it after all. And that's the part where it makes me think that that's the closure on Nemec, or
hmm,
maybe Nemec is leaving this behind, um, or leaving this with him so he could change Cassian's way of thinking. And
yeah,
maybe they will see each other. Like maybe she's just trying to help him. I don't know. Who knows, right? But like giving up that book can mean either two things. Either he's trying to change his mindset, or
hmm,
are they going to see each other again? I don't know. I think that was definitely like a key scene that I'd like to read into a little bit more,
yeah.
probably the second
Nemec,
viewing.
Nemec might be dead, but his memory or his legacy will live on through this book, maybe.
Yeah,
So at the ISB, Pentagaz reunites his staff and asks them to have every star sector and planetary emergency retaliation plan in the building ready for a presentation by midnight. The guy is pissed. That's for sure. Because there's always somebody above you, so he needs to report to some folks, and they will want answers for sure. And meanwhile, at the Senate, Ma gives a speech about the Gorman, which she spoke to with her husband when they were arguing when she learned that he was planning a little party in episode, I guess it was episode 2 or 3, I'm not sure. So the Gorman situation, but she realizes quickly that nobody's listening. So at first, I thought that it was just people that weren't caring,
yeah.
but then I realized that they were receiving notifications on Twitter. I mean, the other net.
Star Wars Twitter.
Yeah, on the other net, and there was reports about the robbery on Albany, so it's gonna have a huge impact at the Senate as well, I guess. And then we shift to Luton's shop. Luton, who we left pretty worried at the last episode. He was wondering how his team would fare with their mission, and the client asks if they have something from Albany. So I think I had the same reaction as Luton first. I was like, oh, is that an Imperial officer? Or
Yeah.
we found out he was, behind that whole robbery. And then, it's like just a regular dude. Well, he looks like an Imperial, but, he's just watching his iPad and he's like, hey, no, I just thought there was a report about a robbery on Albany. So Luton, he retreats to his back stores and he starts laughing because he obviously realized that it's mission accomplished for his team. So that's the smile of a very happy man you see right there.
So that was the end of the story arc, and I'm curious to see where it's going to go from there. We have uh, one one person. See, well, James agrees. It sounds like the story he used to get in on the job and give himself others like the credible reason for justifying his presence. Going back to Skeen, I guess,
Yeah,
right?
to
So
skiing, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
you
I would
could
definitely.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that's what I'm kind of inclined to thinking as well. But um, I don't think anyway. Either way, we're not going to see Skeen. I think that's the end of him and his story. Either way, so it's left to us to speculate what was
Yeah.
behind that message.
There weren't many Easter eggs in. While you have that picture on, we see some empty carbonites behind the Luton's arm.
Yeah.
So that was one pretty small Easter egg, but I find maybe one or two more. I don't know if you want to go to that part right away or.
Yeah.
So if you look at the bottom left of your screen, you will see an Imperial monitor, and the image that is shown on that screen is pretty reminiscent of the image we see when the Death Star is planning to destroy the Rebel base on Yavin 4 in episode 4, actually. So, we see that the planet, moving on to the right of the screen slowly, and it's. I thought it was, like a good wink to the hardcore fans who might have seen that illustration.
Yeah.
And then
You can actually
we
see
have an
them there on the
Imperial.
ground, right? Like on that desk right here. What you're going to next?
Okay, okay. So uh, those glasses, uh, they're the actual glasses that are sold on board the Galactic Star Cruiser uh, in Florida. So if you book a trip on the Alcyon, you will have like a little gift shop that is only accessible to those who pay for the trip, and they sell those glasses, as you might show maybe the next picture. I have bought two of them. No, I haven't been on the Galactic Star Cruiser. I'm not that wealthy yet, but it's a friend of mine who went and picked it up for me. So I almost choked on my drink when I was watching the show and I saw those glasses. I was like, whoa, that's my glasses. And I think it's a pretty neat thing that they ended up putting at an actual show. So
He said
the
those
only
are those
difference,
are gold, right? Is that or is that
yeah,
just a
that's the only
picture? Okay.
difference. Yeah, the button is gold instead of silver, but that's the only difference. And of course, there is no Chandrila Starline mentioned
Yeah.
on in the movie because, well, for obvious reasons.
So to close off, I mean, what did you think? I guess of this story arc, and I guess this is where I was going with the my other comment before on a someone posted there's this kind of meme going around where people are in a movie theater watching Andor and they're all asleep in their seats
Hmm.
because it's apparently it's boring. But like, first of all, as Star Wars fans and anyone who's part of the fan base, you'll always know that no one's ever happy with anything, and you
Yeah.
know, um, and then after that, sometimes it's just as simple as clicking on someone's profile once they make a comment, and it's very telling of
Hmm.
what they do like, what they don't like, and some guy looks like he's a Book of Boba Fett super fan, so obviously he's not going to like this formula, right? So, and I think I couldn't stop myself from making a comment when
Hmm.
they're saying like, oh, these filler episodes, these are filler, like these are not filler episodes, like right,
No,
this is
no, no. It's
development.
character building.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
it's
it.
12 episodes we have, and plenty of time to build a relationship between the fan and the
Hmm.
characters, and to have some kind of attachment that when they do die, like when Gorn dies, or even Skeena or anyone, like you feel like, okay, well, like you actually feel something rather than just like getting
Hmm.
rid of people, right? Like,
Yeah, I was like, oh, there goes another one. Oh, there goes another one.
yeah.
So I was like, and
And given the
it's pretty.
backstory, when you put context to a character that you eventually get rid of, I mean, it hits a little harder than when you just start removing people off an episode. So it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I guess it's not for everyone. It's a slow burner, I guess. But like for me, it all it did was, like, after the first two episodes, that third episode was incredible, and I find that this one as well was the same thing. And I'll take 2 weeks of build up, um, for a great episode.
Mhm.
And if that's not your thing, then just binge them, right? But like, to start suggesting that you'll be watching, this whole series in let's say, in a 3-minute clip to get a summary, then I guess this is just not for you, and it's fine. And like in Star Wars, like not every film's a home run, and not every series is going to be a home run. You take what you like, and you move on, right? So
Well, you summarized it pretty well when you mentioned you compared, the Star Wars, all the content we have as a menu. You're not gonna like everything that's on the menu for obvious reasons, but you take what you like and you leave what you don't like.
yeah,
That's it. And to go back to the Book of Boba Fett, they only had 6 episodes, so absolutely no time for character building.
I think
And
three
I
were
don't know.
dedicated to the Book of Boba Fett, and where the other three were pretty much almost
Yeah,
Mandalorian mix
Mando.
of, yeah. So Max actually says it's one of his favorite Star Wars shows so far. And also, it looks so good. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, well,
Visually, it's just, I mean,
yeah, I agree with him on that because
but Rogue One was also visually like stunning, right? Like Gilroy seems to be an artist, right, with what he puts up on the screen. So
yeah, yeah,
definitely up
and
there.
for character building, going back to the Book of Boba Fett, I was thinking of a character while you were talking a few moments ago, and I thought of Lady Garza Flipped, the lady Twi'lek that holds the bar.
Yeah.
We see her like what 2 times, 3 times, and then the bar blows up. And did anybody care?
No, exactly.
Really?
That's the
Because we never built on her backstory or her prison story. So had there been 2 or 3 more scenes with her, and we learned a little bit more about her background, I'm sure I would have cared a lot more. I'm assuming that she's dead and she didn't use like a backdoor escape or something,
Well,
But
even I think in Rogue One we had seen the character and the relationship that you have, and when they all eventually pass,
Mhm.
it affects you, like even whether it be the pilot, or is it Donnie Yen? I forget his character's name, but like all these characters, once they pass one after the, you feel something, and they were able to manage to do that in like in a 2 hour movie. Could you imagine,
Yeah,
right? Like when you have 12 episodes to do that, and your 2 hours of build, your 2 episodes of build up. I mean,
the
I was
character is Chirrut you were looking for.
yes, that's
Chirrut
right.
in one. And Baze is his good pal.
Yeah. So
Who,
everyone that dies, and even at the end, like when obviously Cassian ends up with Jin, and like
and Jin, yeah.
yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's much different. But if people just, they'd rather have the more simpler things, I guess, than just have the, like,
Mhm.
basically just tell me what the story is, right? So like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know why you're watching, I guess, but everyone's got their own thing, I guess. So
Mhm.
like you said, in a restaurant, on the menu, you order what you like, you don't order what you don't like, and that's it. Um, so this past weekend, um, I was at Comic Con,
Yeah.
and you weren't able to make it,
I could
unfortunately.
make it, yeah.
But I'm just gonna put up here. I had,
Ooh.
yeah, quite the time here. That's my son that's in the middle, dressed as the Mandalorian, chilling with the Mandalorian booth here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know all the names of the people that were there. Obviously, there's no characters in the Mandalorian mercs. Like it's basically you create your own character, so that's why you might not be recognizing. I mean, obviously there's one you do, but the other ones it's all original characters that they create for themselves. These are the pictures that are all courtesy of Max. He was the one that took these great photos. There's a great video that unfortunately we can't show for two reasons. Number one, it's going to be really slow, and number two, I think that there'd be like a nice copyright issue with the song. But like, I'm going to try to get it up there eventually. Um, so I have a few pictures I took. This is actually a photo in front of the 501st booth. That's me and the Scout Trooper Mandalorian version with my son, and my dad is actually the Obi-Wan here. So it's
No,
three generations.
Obi
Yeah,
Dad Kenobi.
exactly. So three generations of costuming over here. So it's pretty cool. Nice photo that we got there. Um, when we see him there fighting
Nice.
our Darth Vader, the very tall Darth Vader that we have here in the
I-
501st in Quebec.
Is it Francois or Christian?
It was Francois. So
Francois, okay.
yeah, so obviously he's looking way up there. Um, these are I think he's like 6 foot seven. I don't
Yeah,
know
six
what he
foot.
is.
6'7". Yeah, it's pretty tall.
He's intimidating. So it's you know, and these people are usually scared of Darth Vader. I mean, when he walks by,
Mhm.
you'll definitely feel it.
Your kid must have looked like a Smurf next to him.
Yeah, yeah. Not more than when we met Chewbacca.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for sure.
yeah, that
That guy
was.
is freaking tall.
So even he dwarfed me in that picture. I look really I look like a child, and I remember asking him when I met him. I'm like, oh, how do we take this photo? And I don't have the photo here, but like, and he just basically said, well, can I pick him up? And he picked up my son in his arms. And even
Wow.
I still look like a child next to him, but I mean, there's no way. I mean, it was such like a uh, discrepancy between like his height and my height, and it was just
Mhm.
it was pretty crazy. So yeah, going on. I mean, obviously, you know, the 501st is usually one of the most popular booths, especially in Quebec. I mean, personally, I thought that there was a huge lack of guests compared to the other years.
Yeah.
There was a lot of interesting artists and local artists and stuff like that. And I think that the headliner was is his name Charles Martinet, the guy who does the voice of the Super Mario.
Yeah, it's him. Yeah.
So that basically was the main guest. So no disrespect, but I mean, like, you know, you look at what's been going on at Fan Expo and the people that are showing up there. I mean,
Mhm.
it just I know Quebec is a little smaller as well. They're Quebec Comic Con, but I think
Yeah,
the
it's a bit bigger in Montreal, but it's
well, George St. Pierre was there at the last one, right? So I mean,
last year. Yeah,
it's
I got
yeah,
to meet him. Yeah, it was
yeah.
pretty
So
cool though.
that was quite a difference. But I personally, I got to go around. At the end, I didn't stay long. I stayed one day. I got there around lunch, and I left around 4 or 5 o'clock. I did my booth time, and we did the march and stuff like that. I didn't stay for the our group photo, but you can see this is at the end of the march, and um, you can see like the people all gathering around taking pictures. I mean, obviously the
Just go back one picture, because it's the last official picture of the Tie Fighter pilot that died on Aldani.
yeah, yeah. His last Comic Con that he
Poor
did.
guy.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, obviously, it's funny for me to see pictures of my back like that. Cause I mean, I never get to see it, even the
Yeah, and
front at times.
yeah.
But
Did
uh,
people ask you to beat up a little bit Grogu
yeah,
or
I always get that joke
special
when I'm
request?
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them don't say anything. There was actually some guy who made a. I didn't take. I don't have the photo here, but there was someone took one of the Grogu plushies and he made an animatronic out of him, and he was on the floor walking around. It was super well done, lifting his arms and sticking out his hand, and anyway, the
Yeah,
guy
I think it was
is
fun.
sorry.
I think it was Stefan, our droid builder.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy to see him moving around. And at one point, I got down and I started interacting with him and like kind of like telling him to come towards me and jump in my bag and stuff. I didn't want to lift the bag because I actually had one in there as well. So, but some people seem to get a chuckle out of it. So yeah, and a couple more pictures here. But like I said, overall, before we get to that one,
Ah,
overall,
yeah.
I had a good time. I wish I would have stayed a little bit longer, but I try not to stay too much into these big public places as well, like especially heading into the winter. I mean, I
Mhm,
obviously dress like that. I'm a little bit more secure than some of the other people that don't have masks. But
mhm.
the highlight for me though, in terms of costumes and everything, was a little girl that was dressed as the Princess
Yeah.
Leia,
Look at
and
her.
yeah, just absolutely gorgeous, the costume and everything. And I remember she came up to me to take a photo with me, and Nick actually is the was the actual, so there was a stormtrooper right next to me. So she came up and took the photo, and when she walked away, I turned to Nick right away and I said, "Man, I'm like, I'm the one that wanted a photo with her. Like, I wish I would have had my phone ready or something to take pictures." And
Yeah.
but she was
That
like, the costume was so on point, the hair, everything was just like,
little Lola. I
yeah,
mean,
it was incredible. And for me, that was the highlight. I mean, obviously, for someone else who sees all the other Star Wars stuff maybe for the first time, it's special. But like, I mean, I've seen just about every costume and every cosplay in the world at this point. But like to see like something original like that, something different,
yeah.
was great. So
It was the first time I ever saw a cosplay of a little Leia, I think.
yeah, so contacted her mom and made sure I had permission to show all this, and I even posted a picture on my Facebook. But like, yeah, and you never know
Yeah.
with kids these days, and you
Oh, of course, yeah. And
don't
she
want to
even gave me the
expose and
permission to share the pictures on my
yeah.
Facebook page also. So,
But how can, I
uh,
mean, you want to share this with the world? Like, I mean,
and,
I've never seen one anywhere. I've never seen it in any con or
yeah,
anything like that. But like, that was great.
it might give some good ideas to other parents, to costume their little girl and initiate them to the Star Wars universe. I mean, it's it was an awesome costume for sure.
I wonder if she's going to
The
be
first
that
thing I
for Halloween. So,
yeah, well, yeah, she's ready. One thing's for sure.
so is there anything else you wanted to add to the episode 7 and the end of this story arc, and where do you think we're going now? I think with like, what do you think we're headed towards now with
Well, at the end of the first arc, we knew that Luton was taking Andor somewhere, But now it's the first time in the series that we're left in the unknown. We don't know where Andor will go. Is it too soon to go back to Ferrix? I'm asking you and our viewers the question because I have a feeling that there's going to be a big increase of Imperial presence on Ferrix, and at some point we will go back to Ferrix because we saw a little insurrection on Ferrix. But will it be Andor who will be instigating that insurrection to free his people from the presence of the Empire, or will it be Bix and Cassian's mother who will, be the engine behind that insurrection? So that is left to be decided, I think.
well, I think we've obviously haven't seen the end, the last of Karn. He has probably no idea where Cassian is.
Mhm.
Um, and Cassian, I mean, he's got to finish the first episode. He's looking for his sister, right? So, um, we have to fill that story and find out what's going on with his sister. He's going to go back and try to continue. I mean, he left, uh, you know, family behind and everything like that. So,
Mhm.
I mean, we're going to go and see what's going to happen there. But I think we're going to start seeing the rest of what's going on with Karn and where they left off. So I can't imagine anything else that they can be. Um, I mean, it's unless a complete surprise, but I mean, he's going to debrief himself, right, with Luthen, or I mean, there's so much, right?
Yeah, yeah, because it seemed like he didn't want to do anything with Luton anymore. He gave back his his down payment into the kyber crystal to Vel, so she could bring him back to Luton. And I think that for now he wants just to get away and have it his own way, make his own decisions for one time, because since he left Ferrex, it was all because of decisions of others, and he had to go with it to gain his freedom, and to have some little cash flow to be able to start a new life. So now that he has it, what will bring him back to the rebellion? I think he might read a certain manifesto he inherited at the end of this episode. So maybe that he will change his mind reading the Nemec's little booklet, and he'll find a new passion or a new sacred fire to join the rebellion once more. Or maybe he will. That's the moment when you will meet Saw Gerrera, because at some point we're going to see him too
Yeah.
in that series, and Luton meets up with him as we see in beside the trailer. So uh, there's a lot of stuff that we saw on the trailer that has yet to happen. So
Unless, I mean, who knows? Maybe they take it another direction and the next story arc is not focused around Cassian. I mean,
yeah, and
the,
how will Cinta reunite with Vel?
yeah.
And that's another
Or maybe,
question.
maybe they're not even going to follow the story arc. Maybe they're just going to, scatter a few episodes and then maybe finish with an arc for the last three.
Mhm.
There's one on the chat is getting a feeling that there will be at some point a link leading up to Rogue One. I mean, could we see one of the characters? I mean, obviously there's Saw Gerrera, but like, is there anyone else that maybe um, we could see in there? But I mean,
Well, we could get a cameo from Gildan Arso or Director Krennic. They're alive at that moment in the storyline, so
well, didn't
that could be a surprise.
Leia's
But
dad also show up in the trailer?
I don't recall seeing him in the trailer, but I recall, thinking that he was a lock to be in it at some point for sure.
Yeah. I mean, do we
So
get our first hint of K2? Like, I mean, I have a feeling we're going to see how they become partners. Probably still too early. Maybe
yeah,
not even this season.
I
Like,
was told that it was going to happen, but in season two,
okay.
so
Yeah, that's
next
what I
year.
would think.
But there's also like the little party that we saw at Ma's apartment in the trailer that has yet to be seen, and she's trying to recruit some new allies in the rebellion. So maybe we're going to see something going on at her apartment in the future. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, her daughter. I mean, who knows what's gonna.
don't get me started with her and her husband.
And it's your second favorite character. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Cosplay, parent cosplay next year.
yeah. You got Nemec, and then you got Mothma's daughter right after. Those are your two favorite
Yeah.
characters. Didn't kill her off though.
No, no. Well, I think that she's gonna have an interesting story arc too. I think that at the very end of the show, she'll understand what her mother stands for. She's just a teenager being a teenager for now. She knows how to hurt her mother's feelings, and she's just being mean because she's feeling that her job is more important than her. And at some point she'll understand. I think we're gonna salvage her, but Perrin is a lost cause for sure.
Never know. Maybe it will throw her into the hands of the Empire, and then she'll have some kind of rank. But I mean, she's got no formal training. I think that we can
Yeah,
think of, right? So I don't know.
perhaps she'll witness the ugliness of the empire, at some point.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously she doesn't show up in anything that we've seen previously. I mean, it's
Oh,
hard to make that link. So I mean, are they just gonna get rid of him? Like to me, like it just seems like in my mind, most of these people are gonna die or
or
disappear
perhaps
at
she'll
some
just
point.
send her, to a relative who lives in the outer rim somewhere for the whole time that she's
It's gonna send her to
living.
Alderaan. Say, go take a trip on Alderaan.
Oh boy, go see Uncle Bail Organa and
Yeah,
Alderaan.
exactly.
Have some fun.
But yeah, so anyway, I think that we can. If you don't have anything to add, we can wrap it up a little bit. And
Yeah, sure. So next week, tomorrow, I mean, I'll be reviewing Darth Sidious Legacy lightsaber. Don't miss that because it's gonna be fun. It's one of my favorite all-time lightsabers. So make sure to watch that video. And the hunt for the 1,000 subscriber is on. We are 76 subscribers away to reach that important milestone for a YouTuber. So, well, please subscribe, like this video, leave comments, tell us what you think of our little podcast. If you want us to, uh, talk about something different, feel free to share your thoughts on that. And well, I think that wraps it up pretty.
yeah,
I
it's
think
funny.
that's it.
We weren't sure we are gonna have enough time, but we blew through those, and I think that's something we spoke about. When there's so much action,
Hmm.
it's hard to really break down every scene. I mean,
Yeah.
we've oversimplified, I think, that episode, um, and I think that anyone who's watched it knows that there's a lot more meat on the bone. I guess
Hmm.
for that, and I guess we leave some kind of mystery and some I guess some more stuff to discover in the episode, and really to focus and experience it, I guess, for yourself. I mean, I was super hyped to watch it, and I think I mentioned like I was expecting, I guess, maybe a bit more action out of it, but I think that it was perfect. It was like it was how
A
did you
good
describe it?
balance between the suspense and action, maybe.
Yeah, well, you said it was like the mission. What did you call it? It wasn't meant to be like a big action scene. Like it was meant to be like um, a,
A robbery.
a robbery. Yeah, like a heist. I guess is
Hmm.
what. Yeah, so it wasn't meant to be like if everything went well, then there wouldn't have been a whole bunch of people dying, right? And I
Yeah,
think
for
that
sure.
was their goal as well, was to make sure. And she said it to him, like we alluded to it before, like if everything goes well, no one has to die, and then that's something I think that was repeated a couple times. No one has to die. No one has to die,
Yeah,
right? Like, but obviously the pride of the empire gets in the way, and that ends up
yeah.
going a different route. So
And if I put you a little bit on the spot and ask you your favorite moment from either this episode or this arc in general, what would you say was?
uh, if it just a quick one was the Tie Fighters,
Hmm.
just for me, but just when I saw that shot. Let's see if I can actually get that right back up here. But that shot of the Tie Fighter when the pilot went in for me was the definite win. And every shot afterwards that came, this I guess the chase and everything like that was for me the highlight. And even like the meteor shower or whatever whatever it's called, that was definitely visually stunning because you had all this going on while you had the big
Yeah,
finale and the action scene going on. So um, yeah, for me that was probably the highlight. Um, but I don't know if I were to put. I think the psychology of it and the like the lines you keep bringing up. I guess when writing these shows, like the key lines and the messages and what was the last one? The axe. Uh,
the axe forget,
yeah,
the axe forget, and but the tree remembers.
exactly. Like all these kind of things that like just leave you thinking. And again, while some people think, oh, it's slow, it's boring, and whatever, but like I don't know. I find that there's a lot that picks at your brain, and that's for me
Hmm.
is it was especially present in this story arc that we saw here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for me, I think yeah. Of course, I absolutely loved the Tie Fighter scene. That was very special for me. But I also enjoyed the fact that the action that took place on a somewhat insignificant planet had repercussions all the way back to Coruscant. Now the Empire knows they have an enemy. I think it's the first. We just witnessed the first victory of the rebellion.
Yeah,
So that's a pretty crucial moment. and there's going to be a lot more small victories for the rebellion on their way to the big one, obviously. But seeing Pentagaz, I think the scene didn't show how pissed he must be. That this happened under his watch and under his officer's watch as well. So I think he's gonna keep his staff on their toes from now on, and they won't have the choice to acknowledge that a little group of people can cause huge damage, and give a big blow to the empire.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, it's definitely going to have a ripple effect, and that's what we're going to see, I guess, across the next few
Mhm.
episodes. And again, I mean, I have no idea at this point, and I guess that's probably what keeps it interesting as well, is that we have no idea what's coming up next. Like especially
Because
the
when Pentecost speaks, he says he speaks of planetary emergency retaliation plan. So the Empire will retaliate.
yeah,
No, it's not gonna go in, Cabinet 13, and we're all gonna forget about that and let's move on. No, no. I
as
think the Axe will remember this time.
and as James, yeah, exactly. Now the axe will remember. Uh,
Yeah,
as James says, he's gonna be pissed too. I mean, he lost 80 million in the process as
yeah.
well, right? So I mean, there
Who
was
wouldn't
yeah,
be
we didn't
pissed?
mention that, but I'm curious to know where those funds are going to end up, right?
Hmm.
But
Well, it's gonna be funding some more rebel, missions or interventions or
X wings,
more weapons, X-wings. I don't know how much an X-wing costs. Maybe we could find out for next episode, but
yeah,
I'm sure it's pretty expensive. It's the beginning of something for sure. On Betsu, the resistance that the cast that are there, they say ignite the spark, light the fire. Well, they just ignite a spark for sure.
yeah.
So
It'd be definitely interesting to see where the ripple ends up
yeah,
after this. So, all right,
it's gonna be fun. All right, guys. So thank you so much for sticking with us until the very end, and we'll see you next week for episode 7 of Andor, and we'll talk about a whole lot more stuff as well. So tune in, and for Eric, I'm Dominic, and hope you had a good evening, and we'll see you next week.
all right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.